Afternoon, everybody. Today I wanted to introduce you to my friend Joy. She's a fellow street photographer, and she's also been involved with doing work with street and being part of Women in Street as well, like putting in photos and things like that for Women in Street. So I want to introduce you to her, and I want to ask Joy, how did you get into photography in general?
Um, I've always been interested. Growing up, I always had a camera on me. I didn't exactly know, the rules of photography, but I always carried a camera. I always had one. My friends always kind of knew me to have one on me, and we'd always go and just kind of take pictures everywhere. Um, and it kind of got out of that for a little while and really picked up after I moved to Edinburgh. Uh, Oh, I had gotten like my first DSLR the Christmas before coming to Edinburgh. And when I was there, I on Instagram I'd see all these images, cityscapes around the city. And I'm like, oh, I think I can do that. So I'd go out and give it a go. And then in my feed, a lot of street photography images would pop up. And I found myself being really attracted to those. And so I started kind of dabbling in that, and I had joined a photography meetup group, and one of the sessions there was street photography. So I, got some lessons on that, and that was really what took it off for me. And Edinburgh just being a compact city, a very photogenic city. There's always something you can find there. And I really enjoyed street photography. I fell in love with it, and the fast pace, and that you can go back to a single location and get different compositions every time. You know, it's that's what I fell in love with, the fast pace, the people, and yeah, that's kind of how I got into street photography.
And when you go out
Okay, that's
shooting,
interesting.
that's interesting. Right. Go ahead,
What
Brian.
was that?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, obviously you say you're into street photography. I'm a nature photographer, and I have dabbled in a bit of street photography. But just one thing from my point, I'd like to understand. I mean, what do you get any emotion from the photos? Because I once done street photography, and I was looking at the photos and didn't get any emotion from them. But I do when I'm in the landscape or doing nature. But what is it? What gives you the most from street photography when you're doing it? What sort of feelings or emotions do you get?
It's capturing an emotion, a gesture or a facial expression, a composition that just something that's kind of hard to get. One of the images that I recently got, which I didn't share with you actually, was when I was in Paris. It was a smoker's hand, just her hand, and the rest was black, and to get a shot like that, you have to get really close and up close and personal. And it can be nerve-wracking, but the fact that I got just her hand with smoke coming off the cigarette with some great lighting, just that kind of does it for me as well. There's a lot of elements into what makes a photograph what I tend to like in a photograph. It's a composition and it's an emotional element, a story that you can kind of see, whether it's perceived or explicit.
Would you say it's to do with the energy that you get involved when you interact with people in the street and you get close up? This kind of energy interaction that you have, and it's knowing that you're viewing them and they're viewing you, and you're capturing that moment within a couple of seconds.
Yeah. I don't often interact with the people. I know there are some, yourself included, who do like to interact with, some people out on the street. I prefer to be more invisible. But there is that kind of high that you get where you see something and in a moment you have to take that shot and hope you get it, and
could you explain how long it takes to take that photo? Because obviously
there's a
all
thrill
different,
with that.
we all do different genres. And I was trying to explain to someone that for street, you've only got a couple of seconds. You have to be highly observant when you take the photo. Would you agree with me on that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. With street photography, you really kind of have to slow down, and observe everything that's around you. You don't get everything, and a lot of times there's a luck in finding a shot. And then there's times where you see something that you're like, I can make a picture with that. And so you wait, you know. But yeah, it's definitely a very quick thinking. You have to be very quick with the shots. You see something and you take it, and then if you can recompose or do a different composition, then you do again. But first thing that I was always told was take the shot, get the shot, and then you can try other ways to improve on it.
And when you're doing it, because myself and Gladys were recently on a street photography meetup with I Candid You, I think was the name. Gladys, if I'm right in saying?
Amy Strachan.
Amy, yes, I Candid You.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and she was talking about focal lengths or different types and all the rest of it, about because she was shooting, I think it was 25 or 35 millimeters. But do you have a preferred focal length, or do you have a zoom lens, or is it primes that you use?
My preferred is a 50 millimeter.
Okay.
On a crop sensor, so technically it's about 75.
Okay.
That's my favorite focal length. And occasionally I'll use an 85 on mine. I really like the compression that I can get with the 85. So.
Okay. And is it most candid street photography, or do you do any street portraits at all?
Not really. No, that kind of that part gets me a bit nervous. That's nerve-wracking. I've done a few, but I prefer the more candid.
Okay. Yeah, because I think that's right. Because sometimes when I done some portrait street photography, the people, they don't act naturally. That's the thing I think that sometimes happens with portraits. But I understand it, because you catch people because because funny talking about smoking a cigarette. I once, when we were on the one with Gladys, there was a chap who was I think he was a waiter or a chef in a pub, and he was standing outside, but the sunlight was coming down Leith Walk, and it was just getting the right orange. But I was standing watching them. They were in nature. I'm used to. I could stand about for hours, But is that what you do? Do you tend to just, if you see something, or if you see a reflection, or you see something in a window that you can just wait for the right person, do you stand and wait for somebody to come in that's the right person for that particular scene?
I do a little bit of both, yes. Primarily, I will walk around. There's a term, hunting and fishing.
Yeah.
I tend to hunt, but occasionally I'll see a scene and be like, well, this could make for something, and then I will wait, and I'll create, wait for the right person to come in. So more often I'm just kind of walking slowly, and then less often I'll wait for someone to walk into the scene. But it does occasionally. I do that occasionally. Yeah.
Okay.
And what interests you when you take that shot? What do you see that you find interesting? Is it the way that people dress? Is it abstract? Is it a bit more illusion? Because each street photographer's got different styles,
Yeah.
haven't they?
I do like reflections. I do like window shots and using reflections in window shots to create layers. But that's one I haven't even been able to answer for myself. Like, I don't know. I'll see a person, yes, if they're dressed nicely, an interestingly dressed person. But to me, just snapping that person on the street is not enough. It has to be that person with the right background, you know. Um, and a lot of times, I think I like to try to invoke some kind of emotion in my images, whether it's sadness, loneliness, happiness, love. You know, I do think I kind of gravitate towards having a story in my images.
And who would you say that inspires you the most as a street photographer? The images that you actually love, the books and the different
All-nighter, definitely. Yeah. Cartier-Bresson, Ernest Haas, and then there's the modern day ones now on Instagram, Shane Taylor, Andrew James Campbell, local favorite, Pete Wands.
Pete Wands, of course, yeah.
Yeah. Who else? Vivian Meyer. And then Robert Bloomfield, the Scottish street photographer. Yeah.
Oh,
he was really good.
His stuff's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh gosh, it's
some kind of story in their images. In my opinion, that's what I get from their captures.
I've had a sneaky peek at your Instagram feed, and you're talking with Brian and of course with Glads about the reasons of your shots. I can see it in there that's what you're trying to do, to tell a story of a specific moment of that time where you were in the streets. How do you see yourself developing in the next year or so, or the next 5 years? Do you see yourself producing more or less the same image, or are you going to venture into more experimental genre, or
I'm not sure. I think I would like to utilize what I've learned in street photography and kind of try my hand at event photography. I feel those two can really go hand in hand, with the candid shots and trying to create a story from an event, and from the people in that event, concerts or parties, something like that. But I would like to also kind of practice more abstract. I love abstract. I don't feel I have a great eye for it. And that's something I'd like to improve on.
I think you've got great eye for abstract. When I've
Thanks,
gone
hon.
out shooting
That's
with
good.
you. When I've gone out shooting with you, I'm quite impressed with some of your abstract stuff.
I don't post them much.
No, you don't, but you actually do come up with some really good abstract ideas when I've been with you. So I'm surprised you think that.
Yeah, there are really good abstract shots actually in your feed. I just wanted to also ask, because I'm always curious about street photography, on the commercialization of the shots, so your images. Given that of course there are people subject in it, so do you see it as something that has potential for commercialization, like that you can earn money out of it, you can be a professional in it and defend your livelihood on street photography? The reason why I ask of it, because as we know, there are a lot of landscape photographers, portrait photographers, wildlife photographers that actually are professional and earn majority, if not all of their income from it. So do you see that as something that can be done within street photography?
I think it can. The images I feel would have to be very specific. Not everyone wants to buy a street photograph, you know, of some stranger and put it up on their wall. And that's kind of what has gone through my mind, you know, in terms of turning a profit from my images. And I feel if the person is, if there's some mystery to the person or it's an abstract photo, yes, I believe those, you know, can be highly commercialized. But I do feel that in street photography in general, that it's a little harder to monopolize, not monopolize, commercialize on that.
But wouldn't you also agree that people like Martin Parr, for example, he's a photographer, street photographer and documentary, but what makes him special is the fact he takes photos with humor, and he's got a specific type of humor, and as a result, he actually stands out. And
I think
he's made a good living out of it.
Yeah, well, I think if you can make a book, you know, if you can compile a book of your images, then that, to me, is the way to go in terms of commercializing your work. But selling one-offs, I think, is a little harder than selling one-offs in, you know, nature photography or landscape photography. So I, in terms of street photography, yes, I feel that making a book would be the best way to commercialize on your work, you know, and having some kind of story.
Would you say even documenting an area, a place that people live in that area?
Yep.
Makes
creating a story of multiple photos. Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's like Robert Frank, The Americans, right? He has this library of all of that, and it creates a story for you about a specific time. So yeah, and Robert Bloomfield, Vivian Meyer, all of theirs, you know, they show and they reflect a certain time.
Yeah, I mean, I would. Oh, sorry, on you go.
No, it's okay. Go on, Brian.
Okay, I mean, just when you're talking about that, because obviously I do follow. There's one chap that I follow. I don't know if you've heard him. There's a guy called Optical Wanderer, Sam Bassett, I think his name is. But he's very clever because he does a lot of POVs and he does a lot of educational stuff on his YouTube channel. But when you talked about event, that's what he does. He gets mixed up with a company. I'll give him a car, and he has to photograph it in different light in different places, and they give him the use of the car, and you know. So there's other elements that he's managed to build a very successful business from what I can see based on it. Because I just look at his Instagram feed and his YouTube channel, and he's got quite a lot of followers, but I guess the question, it's like most people that do earn a living, they've got to have a whole lot of different elements to piggy into to give them that cash flow to come into them. It's not just quite easy as sitting and putting out a YouTube video, for example. So it is going to, I think for any genre, it is very hard, isn't it, at the very least, to try and make an income, you know, without the work. It's hard work. It has to be put in to get, to generate that. And then my question is then, do they then lose the love for just going out and taking photographs? You know, that's because
I've heard of that. Yeah, there are, you know, photographers who their main job is commercial photography or you know, type of photography where they don't really have a say in the work, and they do get burnt out. And so for them, going out and being able to do their own without anyone telling them what to do, you know, that's how they maintain their passion for their craft. But yeah, I do see that to monetize your work. I think you do have to kind of branch out and find different ways to monetize instead of just trying to sell prints.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that seems harder.
It's
to
much
me.
harder. Yeah, yeah, as you're
Yeah.
right, it's much harder. I don't live in the US, but it certainly is here in the UK now. You know, it's because and really we don't have enough like galleries now. You know, where that was, you know, and there's been a lot of discussion about that, and some of the people I follow, and that's the reason that they're having to then, you know, doing workshops and things like that. You know, to help, you know, some value income and things.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
Jan, on you go now. Yeah.
Yeah, just a follow up really about the you mentioned about a book and about you know, telling a story. Do you see yourself doing that in the near future? You know, pulling together something about Edinburgh and, you know, the specific place?
Eventually I would, yeah. I just haven't decided on what topic. I've you know, what kind of project I'd like to do and how I would like to portray. For Edinburgh, I've created one just for myself, but I don't think there's an overarching story to mine. But I think I would have to go through my pictures to kind of see the relationships between my pictures to see if there is something there. So eventually I would like to.
Sorry, I like the whole idea of, you know, because like I said, I did a sneak peek at your Instagram feed. I do like the photos, particularly of, you know, people's hands and feet and the you know, because they tell a story of who's behind the hand, or, you know, who's actually who owns the fits and things like that. And I think I just thought it's a really interesting topic to look at, because the usual way that I see in the street photography that I see, usually either emotions or people, you know, faces and things like that, things that they're doing, but very few of just really looking at either a shadow of a face, or, you know, a hand, or you know, someone, because you know, you know, holding a cigarette might be, makes you think that, oh, was the person doing it for enjoyment, or was the person actually doing it because they feel anxiety and need to relax? So there is a lot of, you know, it leads to a lot of work in the imagination on exactly what, you know, that person is doing as well.
Yeah, hands, feet, details. I like those. I don't often take a lot, because to me, sometimes it can be hard to to convey something with just taking a picture of their hand. But with that smoking hand one, you know, that was more of a kind of creative, wanting to get the cigarette lit with the smoke coming off, a more minimalist type of image is what I was going for. I have taken some with hands. You know, some hands can tell a lot about a person. You know, and I know there's a lot of people that do take pictures of people's hands, and done right, they can be very telling. You know. So.
Right, we were talking about hands. I thought we'll introduce this one with hand. Joy, I absolutely love the fact that you've got a photo of someone actually looking through a book, and are they looking at photos or something themselves?
They are, yeah. This was a photo museum, and so I had captioned this on Instagram, looking back at the past, because
Mhm.
really that's what they were doing. It was a photo
Mhm.
museum of archived photos. You know, I didn't go in because it was a timed exercise, but I liked that I had this older gentleman looking through the books, and then when he came upon this picture with the man waving, I was like, that's the perfect shot. You know, that was a
Mhm.
decisive moment for me. So I liked that the guy he kind of has eye contact. The one in the photo book, he kind of has eye contact with my camera,
Yeah.
and it seems as if he's waving at me.
Yes.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So
I like the fact that you've got the hand waving and then you've got the old gentleman's hand and it looks like it's in para.
That's exactly what I
yeah,
was.
yeah.
That's exactly, yeah, that's exactly what I thought. It's almost like, you know, it's one hand at the back and one at the front, you know, but waving, you know, and then the little thumb from the other hand, you know, it's
Kind of throws you off.
it's
And I
like
love
fingers, hands, and thumbs.
and I love the fact the background's blurred as well. So you've obviously used a quite wide aperture because
Yes.
which makes it a little bit more minimalistic because you're actually focusing on the book and the hands and forgetting about all the detail around.
Yeah, because it's good because it diffuses it, but it just gives it a sense of place as well, you know, rather than just being completely sterile. But it gives you an idea that they're sitting somewhere, you know, looking at this book. But yeah, it's and then I mean, see when you do that, is there much processing, or is that pretty much as it comes out the camera?
There was a little bit of processing on that, but not a lot. I think on his face, I did added a bit more clarity to just kind of bring him more out of
Okay,
the background.
yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, minimal editing on this one.
Mhm.
Would
I
you say
thought that would be the case. Yeah.
would you say generally that most street photography is minimal editing?
I think it depends. There are some that edit their images to create a mood, regardless of what the image is. I have a tendency to gravitate towards a cinematic look. The kind of blues, yellows, greens, that color. So for me, how I'll edit the image is highly dependent on the image itself. Now, I have a typical color grading that I prefer, but it doesn't always work on every photo. And then there's some, such as this one, where the black and white, makes it a stronger image. So I look at mine on an individual basis. I don't create my own preset. So I'll do the general, exposure, the white balance, clarity, contrast. I'll do those typical ones first, and then I'll tweak, I'll tweak with my color grading, and if I like it, good. If not, I'll change things up. But I think it all depends on the photographer. And, you see a lot of them on Instagram, and a lot of them they implement the same color grading for all their images. And so they have a very consistent look to their profile.
Yeah. I remember,
And then,
sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I remember Gladys, we were on an Edinburgh photography group street meetup, and we're down at the Dean Bridge area. And then just because I felt, and this is the only time I've used it, because for me, I didn't want to invest a lot of time in editing them because it's not really my thing. But I like the different using composition and light is because we use that right across the genres of photography. But I had a little play after because it was all people's clothing and stuff, and I just used a preset that I found somewhere, and it was just using, it was basically like split tone and all the rest of it. And it was quite interesting because I grabbed about 6 or 7 images and just used that preset, and it was something I could never do in editing myself, I have to be honest. But I just thought, oh, it made it look quite different, and maybe that's something like a wee story of a day out, in one place where you maybe want to keep the same colours across all images to create that consistency or that theme in that thing. Because I do see what you see. You see a lot of people using those sort of that type of thing for all their images, and it creates. But that almost makes it, that gives them that personal. That gives them a personal touch that next time you see a photo, you can probably think, oh, that'll be Joy's photo or something like that. It's a good way to do that.
Absolutely. And yeah, like I said, I gravitate towards more cinematic colors. And I feel, for me, that's the kind of mood that I want to project coming from my photos. But my editing style has changed over the years. It started out high contrast and gone to desaturated and then gone to cinematic. So I don't lock myself in to one editing style. I do appreciate the Instagram profiles that do have a consistent look, that can consistently use that same color grading across the board. But I just haven't found that suited me.
Yeah.
So you basically look at a shot and then do the editing based on what the shot needs.
Yeah.
Am I right in saying that?
Yeah. I'll usually employ the cinematic colors that I prefer, the split toning colors that I prefer. And then I'll tweak around and be like, well, I'll try this. Maybe this doesn't work, because I feel that some images can stand on their own just without, any color grading. And then I feel some images can be enhanced with color grading.
I agree.
Yeah. I was on a workshop with another photographer, a guy called Mally Davis. I don't know if you've heard of him.
No, I don't know. Name doesn't ring a bell.
Well, funny enough, you should maybe check out his. He's actually been on a couple of street photography. Mally's a bit of he's just a great guy, full of enthusiasm, but he does woodland and nature, but he also does mixes up, and he's been on a couple of street photography, I think one in Manchester and one in Liverpool, but really, really quite entertaining. It was almost in a punch-up in one case. not his doing, but it's quite interesting because he's a very I find him infectious, but he's a lovely character actually.
I'll have to look him up.
Okay.
I can recommend it.
Okay, should we start with this image then? Okay, so Joy, could you describe about where you took this image and what it's about and everything?
I liked leading lines was one of my favorite things to use in an image, and I like the leading lines. This was done at the Meadows. One year when we got snow, I went out at night and just kind of went around the meadows, and they have those lovely lines, those lights and the trees, and I just saw this group of 4 walking down right in the middle of the path, and I loved how the lights kind of framed them, and so I created that one. I created that shot. Yeah. And then this is another one where I edited and I used the color grading to create that more cinematic color. Yeah.
I like the fact, I love the lines of the light as well. I can see what you mean. I love the fact that they're actually spaced out evenly as well.
That too. Yeah.
It seems
You
quite
know, you try not to
symmetrical.
get your subjects crossed and
Yeah.
whatnot, or overlapping.
Yes. So what's the
Yeah.
story behind this one?
So this was actually on a photo walk with other street photographers, and I saw her through the window. I saw the light, kind of just the subtle light on her shoulder, and I was setting up my shot, trying to get the focus on her shoulder because it was through a window, so my camera wasn't adjusting properly. And so it took me a bit. And then finally, as I took the shot, she turned. I think her friend who she was sitting with was like, they're trying to take a picture of you or something. And she turned just at the right moment. And that really made my picture for me.
Mm-hmm.
She looks like a doll.
Yes. And I like, you know, like the reflections that kind of surround her. But I like that she's looking back.
I love the lines as well, because you've layered it in different layers. You've got the lines, then the reflection, and then her looking back.
And then her, yeah.
Was it?
Yeah,
was
there's
it,
a lot.
Sorry, was it luck, or was it planned to get the eye and the mouth in between the two Venetian blinds?
That was luck. a lot of that happens in street photography. But yeah, like I said, I was just trying to get the light on her shoulder. But because I was taking so long to take the shot, she ended up turning around to see what I was doing just as I took the shot. And so it just happened that her eyes and her mouth kind of fell in between the blinds.
I think I like the way the expression on her face, because she looks quite intrigued about what's happening. So there is that emotion, and the reflection actually is looks very 1950s.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, there is
I can see that.
Yeah, there is that you know, harking back to that era of the reflection makes it, and her t-shirt is, and the makeup, it looks very 1950s, you know, where they used to roll the sleeves up, and with the big skirts and bold makeup, red lips, and well-defined eyebrows. So that's how I see it. It actually reminds me of the 50s.
I can definitely see that. Yeah, that, Jan, I can see it.
I can see that. Kind of a timeless look to it.
Yeah, yeah, it has.
Yeah.
I love also the fact that you've caught the Edinburgh buildings, because I'm presuming this is in Edinburgh, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah.
Because you can see the tenement buildings as well.
Yeah.
So you know where it's been taken, the photo. So it's not just her, it's also the background. But what's interesting, it's not too busy, the background either.
Yeah, I prefer to shoot fairly wide open. About 2.8 is my preferred aperture. Around there, 2.8 to 5.6 usually.
Yeah.
And that kind of helps me to, I like to isolate my subjects and have them be the focus. And so that's where I play with, you know, the 2.8 to 5.6 aperture.
I mean, just following on that's one thing I tend to struggle with a bit when I'm out trying to do street photography in my very amateurish way. I find, well, because what I do, it's easy in nature and landscape because you can pick where you want things to be, because generally they're not moving. How do you go about in your street photography when you've got people and transport and all manner of things all in the mix? How do you filter all that out to get what you're trying to create?
That's one of the reasons why I shoot wide open, is the focus can be on the subject that I want, and everything else can be kind of blurred in the background, yet they're providing some sense of space, but not distracting from the person that I'm taking the picture of. And then also you got to get up close, you know, with street photography, especially when it's busy, you have to get up close. You know, there's a saying, if it's not good enough, you're not close enough. And and oftentimes I find that
Well,
to be the case. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
well, that's
Have you-
interesting. I'm up in town on Friday. I'll take these 2 points to my mind, and I'll try that and see how I get on then. Thanks.
Well,
for
I
that.
have to see what you come up with. You have to share.
I will do. Don't worry. I'll do it on my Instagram feed.
Do you find a prime lens is probably a better one than a zoom lens when you take your photos? Do you use a zoom lens or prime lens?
Most often, prime lens. Yeah.
And why is the reason you would
there-
use the prime lens?
The prime lenses you can get, they're usually faster glass. You know, you can get a wider aperture. You can get more light in, and it takes away from trying to figure out, okay, well, should I zoom? Should I not? And you learn where to stand to get the pictures that you want. And I feel, and I don't know, with a zoom, you know, I've done both. So with a
I've done
zoom,
both too.
you
I've
can
done both.
feel, you can feel safer because you can be farther away. But at the same time, it's you spend a lot of time trying to zoom in to capture that shot. When street photography, you have to act in an instant, and you can't be manipulating the lens, you know, to whatever composition you want.
Do you also find that
so-
you miss interaction as well of the person when you use a zoom lens? Because when you're up close, like you say, you get more of an interaction.
It depends on what you want. You know, if you want that interaction, then you can miss out on that. But I think if, like with the 85, I'm far, you know. But it's the kind of images that I'm going for. I know what image I want to go for when I use a longer focal length, and I shoot for that. So
what would you shoot for then if you're using a long focal length?
I like using the 85 at night.
Yeah.
You can be a little farther away, get some nice compression in the image, and still get enough light. I like the compression that comes with an 85. But there are certain, you shoot differently with a longer lens, longer focal length than with a shorter. So it's much more detailed, which is kind of what I like at night. I like to get a little more details, and then during the day, you know, get a little more sense of space. So that's why I use the 50 during the day, and I'll take an 85 out at night.
That's good to know. Yeah.
Interesting.
And an 85 is I reckon the 85 would be a 2.8.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a fast lens. Yeah.
Okay,
It makes sense.
It does make sense. Yeah. Let's get the next picture. Am I right to say this was in Deansbridge, isn't it? By the looks of it.
Deansbridge, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a summer hoary day.
Scottish summer with the fog in summer. I bet you don't miss that, Joy. I bet you're
I
glad
like
to
the
get-
warm summers where I'm at. Yeah.
I'll take fog any day. We had it this morning, so I was cock a hoop with some trees that I got. I've been waiting for the fog to come. So yeah, I'm glad to see this because this reminds me of first thing this morning.
I know, because the
Not a
lady,
shortage of that in Scotland.
yes, I know, because the lady I was chatting with this morning said, "Oh my gosh, it feels like winter," and I went, "It always feels like that in Scotland."
It's gonna feel like that in the
Well,
summer too.
well,
Well, right, right, right off the bat, this looks like a very old photograph. If it wasn't for those cars, which I can tell are modern day, but it's just that's got a really good old worldy, look to me. This one, with the
Yeah.
I think it must be with the toning you've used in your editing, but it's got that a really moody, dire looking Edinburgh smoggy.
Yep. So this is one, like I said, I went through a desaturation phase. This is one of the images that I took during that time. So yeah, I desaturated a lot of the color, but still kept some color, and then added some of that other color grading in. But it was I was walking into town to do some street photography, and this was my normal way into the city, crossing Dean's Bridge all the time, and again have the leading lines of the rails on the right, and then you got the leading line of the car and pathway, and then people coming. So I just kind of set myself up along the wall and use that right edge to direct your eye into the center of the picture. And I took several shots. I felt this guy was the most interesting, coming back from the shops with his Sainsbury bright orange bag and a big bottle of water.
Yeah, and I think it's very clever actually, because I like although that the bridge is a leading line, but being out of focus, it's soft enough not to take your eye away from moving into the image. It's very clever how you've done that.
Thanks. I can't remember what aperture I used. I mean, it was most likely between 2.8 and 5.6. Probably, by looking at that, I think 5.6.
Yeah, it looks like it's a 5.6.
It would be with the depth of field you've got. Yeah, with the depth of field, if you've, I think if you've used the man as your focus point, because you can even see the building on the corner, beautiful building. That's, to me, that looks, from what I'm looking on this monitor, that looks pretty much in focus to me as well from here. So, yes.
I think one of the things I've noticed is that, of course, the leading line of the bridge is quite heavy. It's quite prominent on the bottom half right-hand side. But and that would have been quite distracting if the lamppost is not there. So that sort of balances it.
It helps
so
to
you've got
balance
two
it,
prominent, helps balance it. And it also nicely got the kind of divided the image pretty well as well, with one side of, because come to think of it, if those cars are edited out, you would even think that this is, quite an old
image.
An old image that's, someone, it could be time traveling. This person is a person from the 1800s who traveled to buy groceries in Sainsbury. in the 2000s.
You should do for a bit of fun. For a bit of fun, try AI and put a horse and cart and see what it does.
Remove the cars and put the horse and buggy.
Yeah.
Or even better, the old ones when they used to deliver the coal or the milk.
Because I think Edinburgh itself Edinburgh lends itself to these kind of images, though.
It does.
You just the buildings, you can remove all the modern day stuff, and it will look like it did back in the day.
So that's the beauty. But I think that's the beauty of this image, because it looks like typical old Edinburgh. but you can tell it's present day because of the cars. But without so your mind can go to think, well, that's what would have been like in the old days of Edinburgh, when it was maybe not such a nice place, but the beauty was in the buildings, but maybe all the smog, industrial, revolution and all that time. But that's where my mind goes to, because my background's in industry.
I also think with like Newtown, you tend to get a lot of people that dress quite vintage as well, which also gives that worldly feel. I mean, it's quite common in Newtown, the way people, especially the older generation, dress. They have more of that vintage, old Edinburgh style, don't they?
Yeah.
What would have made this
Actually,
perfect is someone in a kilt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just really thought that editing out those cars, they will change the whole perspective of this image.
I also love the fact it's got tiny bits of colour, like the yellow line. The yellow line runs parallel with the dark line. It's like a painting where you've got this black and white, but you've got this splashes of colour, just a subtle touch of colour. And it has that impression of, but he used to be an artist as well.
But that's what I done once. I was up in, I think it was Coburn Street, and what I done, probably very similar to what you've done here, Joy. I desaturated everything, and then where I knew it was a blue or a yellow or an orange, I just put that into the whole image, and it was like a monochrome with one colour in it, and I made that as a theme. Different colours.
Yeah. Well, I did a rendering of this in black and white, and there wasn't enough color to be a nice contrasty black and white. It was mostly gray. So I felt the color version was stronger, even in its desaturated tones. It was still stronger than the black and white. So
it just picks
this is. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just saying, but because what it's doing, it allows your eye to just look through. To me, I'm looking through it, and you can see there's the yellow, there's the red, there's the the whites and the red lights and the red car and the green, and but that's because you're taking your eyes wandering around and looking at all the different where it's drawn to, because we're all drawn to light colours, aren't we? So it's
right. I remember the name of the person. It's Saul. Saul was a photographer, a painter as well. And he uses the concept of slightly tinge of colour in his street photography.
Not Saul. Which Saul?
Saul Leiter.
Okay. Yeah, he's definitely an inspiration. One of my inspirations.
Oh, you've got brilliant eye contact there.
Yeah, this is one of my favorites as well. This one and the last one that we looked at. This was taken during that street photography workshop, or this was during the Edinburgh photo meetup, and the theme was street photography. This was my first real kind of concerted effort at street photography, and one of my favorites still. So I have two pictures, one where she's just looking forward, and then another she had turned just as I took the picture again. And I much prefer this one, with the eye contact. It's stronger. And then I like that she's kind of balanced with the other person behind her. It gives some balance, but yet you're not focused on that person. She's the focus.
And the separation from the bike wheel in her skirt. No, but it's that look with the hand, because it's like, what? Yeah, I'm looking at that with a hand, and she's like, what's going on here? What's she looking at with a camera for?
Yeah, that probably was going through her mind. I had it pointed right at her, and I wasn't far either.
I think the eye contact's brilliant. The eye contact's very strong on this.
What street is this on? Sorry, I'm trying to figure it out.
This is Bristol Square.
All right, okay.
at the university. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Right. No, it's aye, I'm
And
just looking
Jan,
at. I like the colours. But see the colours she's wearing. They're quite unusual, aren't they? That's quite different as well, I think.
Yeah, I didn't have to manipulate that much. That was
Mhm.
hers. I can't remember if this was a JPEG or if I had switched over to RAW yet by this time. I
and
think
was
maybe
this
that
at,
day
and was
that was
this
my
at
first
2.8
time
as
around.
well?
That was most likely 1.8.
1.8.
Yeah, I think that one's a completely wide open 1.8.
You focused it really well on the eye and everything. That's really good. It's very good.
Just don't pixel peep.
Okay. Okay.
No, I don't know. I haven't looked
Joy,
closely.
Jan, do you have anything to say? Because you've gone a bit quiet.
No, I was just looking at the image, and I think it's a really well done image. You know, it just all the elements works. Yeah, all the elements works, and it's the expression on the face of the lady. I think also makes the image worth looking at. So it's a very really well done image. I like it.
Thank you.
Okay. So I was going to ask you, what's your favorite photo that you've ever seen in street photography that's really caught your eye? If you could think of one.
Oh, I don't know. There's so many.
Name your top 3
Pick one of your own.
images.
Pick one of your own.
The pressure is on.
You know, Pete Wands has a lot that I like. You know, and like I said, Shane Taylor, and Andrew James Campbell. They've all got some really nice ones. I can't recall off the top of my head any one specific one that like just blew me. Oh well, no. 6th Street Under.
Okay.
He had this one where the kids were on the swing. I think you may have seen it.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's that one.
That's a
I'm
brilliant
just like,
image.
how did he capture that? You know.
Who was that
So
one again? Sorry, I missed it. You said
6th Street Under is London, a London photographer.
I'll need to have a look
And
for it. Yeah.
yeah. So there's this one where he took, and it's just the lighting, it's subtle lighting, but the lighting is perfect. The colors, they're not overly saturated. And it's a picture of two kids on swings.
Mhm.
And I don't know, there was just something about that image and the way he captured it, the way he rendered it, with his coloring that kind of blew me away. Yeah.
That's really cool. For me, it's Vivian May, the one when she does the self-portraits, but there's one way she's got like a reflection of her, but then and in it, there's two little ladies inside, and it's like it's the way it's situated on her body, the lighting is, and they look like they're in some kind of laundry.
No, I don't think I've
And
seen
I
that
love
one.
that because it's like the layering of it, and it's the way the lighting hits on people, and it's how you see her stiletto, silhouette on the window, but yet the lighting's on the two people.
Uh-huh.
And I just find that fascinating. I just think that's such a clever shot.
Yeah, sounds clever.
Yeah,
Who is this by?
I'm Vivian May.
Oh, Vivian Mayer. Okay.
Mm.
Yes. Yeah, I like how she uses
Her,
her shadow or her silhouette
yes.
in the window
Yes.
kind of block out all the reflections so you can see inside a little more, but then you still get
Exactly.
that, sense of space around. Yeah.
One of the
Very clever.
street photographer that I like as well is Damien de Molde. He has very good use of, like the lights and shadows, and also one of my favorite shot that he has was, there's this, I think it's afternoon because the light is golden, so I think maybe about autumn. And then you got this huge vertical lines of the building, and then you got this tiny person walking towards the building, and the person is just black, basically, with the light hitting his back and some parts of his body. And then but then you've got this directional light actually that's coming, and it's very, just invokes that whole, the whole image of how small we are in terms of, in terms of the world, how small we are in, and I that's what I like, the image of his. But he's one that I admire a lot when it comes to street.
Say, if you had to shoot in any time era for street, what time era would you love to shoot and where?
Let's see. I think I would like to shoot back in Hawaii during the plantation days, and kind of document the plantation workers, just not just the hardships, but their life as a plantation worker, and just Hawaii in general at that time. I see pictures from that time, and I wouldn't mind going back and being able to capture that with my vision.
That'd be brilliant. Okay, so if people want to see your photos, where's the best place to see your photos?
Instagram. My handle is joygeorge_street, and that's where you can see most of mine. I'm also on Threads, but I haven't been posting there regularly, so Instagram is the best place.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And do you have a website as well?
I do not at this time, no.
Yeah, and also, and I remember you mentioned to me that you did you won a competition, didn't you, in London? Or you?
Oh, I was a semi-finalist, I believe.
Yeah, and how was the experience of it all, and which photo won? Because I'm just curious now.
It was several that won me. One was the one in London, where it's just the reflection, kind of one after the other. They picked that. The one with the pink shoes. I think you were with me that day. I took that one.
Yes.
And the one with the lady on the train reading a book.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah.
What was the competition? Sorry, did I miss that? I thought, was it one specific competition? A number?
No, it was by invitation only. And they found my images, and I can't recall off the top of my head the company at this moment, but yeah, it was by invite only. They reached out to me on Instagram and said, we like your work. We have this yearly competition that's by invitation only, and we would like to enter you, if that's okay. And so I was like, yeah, that sounds great. And then I made it to the semifinals. It was a semifinal.
Did really well. Absolutely amazing, Joy.
That's really great.
Absolutely, it's a good morale boost. It's good when somebody recognises your work, isn't it? It gives you that little, oh, your beauty. That's fantastic, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because you know, we all have imposter syndrome, right? And
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
so you look
Yeah.
at other people's work and you're like, well, mine's not that good.
Yeah.
And it is, yeah, it's definitely
I had imposter syndrome myself because, well, Gladys and Jan know it a bit, and I had an image that I sent in for a competition with Visual Arts Scotland. It was a centenary exhibition, the Royal Scottish Academy, and I entered 3 and 1 got picked, and I felt an imposter amongst all these artists. But I tell you what, when I was there, I felt as proud as punch, I have to say.
oh yeah, absolutely. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It
Well,
was just, wow.
Yeah, and it sold, and somebody bought it. That made it was like the icing on the cake, you know.
Oh hell, yeah, that's amazing.
Oh, I know. I never, it took me about a month to come down after it, I think.
It just takes one to start, you know,
Yeah.
and then things can cascade from there.
Yeah. And have you had anything else recurring after this? Any other major things?
No, unfortunately. No. I'm off and on with street photography. I go strong for a little bit and then I kind of get disillusioned by the images that I'm taking. You know, they're not good enough and they're the same old things. And so I kind of take a break, give myself a mental reprieve from that. And then I come back. So I'm in and out of the street photography scene.
Yeah. I'm the
Do you-
same. I'm the same
do
with
you-
that, in and out.
See, when you're in that phase, do you ever go into any genre photography, or do you just kind of just cut yourself from it entirely?
I kind of just stick with street. Yeah. I've attempted landscape or at least cityscape. And there's a wide range. I'm like, okay, I don't know where to focus to make a good image
You've
in
got
a
plants-
landscape photo.
You have plants in your garden.
I do. Well, no, not really. Just grass.
That's why it's good to hang out with another landscape photographer, because that's one thing I love doing when I go out with Jan, that she, you know, I get good tips and I get ideas from her pictures. Or when she's taken something, she'll show me something and I'm like, oh, that's really good. And then I'll try and attempt it. So I always find that if I'm with someone else is in that genre, it's really helpful. And it gives you a different view than just doing street art. That's one thing I really enjoyed with taking photos with Jan. Yeah.
Jan, you need to start charging her.
Create your own workshop, Jan.
Jan's really good at wildlife, actually.
I tend to just bring people around for the laugh of it. Especially when they fall into a salt flat.
Like the cable car experience that we had over the weekend.
And the cable car experience.
But we were like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die right now. And also we had the experience of Isle of May when we went on the boats. We were meant to get the big boat and we ended up getting on a speedboat. We were like, hope we survive it.
It's
funny.
always an adventure when it comes to landscape or wildlife photography, because you need to go into the area and have a look around. So with that, I just wanted to say that what can we expect from Joy in the future? Would there be a book where there'll be something that we can say that's hey, that's Joy. She's done
Eventually
it.
I'd like to make a book. Yeah. I just need to, kind of buckle down and decide on some projects to do and what I want to show.
Okay.
So you certainly
the hard
have quite a rich portfolio already based on what's in Instagram. So I would say,
I think that's what's really interesting about street is that when the image is really strong, you go back to it and you see more and more, and then you pick up.
I don't know I don't know if you heard that, Joy, but I'm just looking at your Instagram. Well, I had it on anyway, but I'm scrolling the way down. I thought, oh, there's that photo because it's further down with the first one. And I thought, Crikey, I've never seen the guy's face. And when we're looking at it, because, I'm busy looking at what the eye should be looking at is the book and the hands and the face. And I thought,
yeah.
and now I can see the man's face because I'm looking at it in a different way now. But that's amazing. That's brilliant. And there's a second photo. I take it that's the same person when they're looking at the other pages.
Yes, that's just his hand.
That's cool. I like it.
So, Jan, you were saying that about books and projects. What kind of projects would you think about doing, or have you thought that far ahead yet? Or
Me? No, haven't thought that far ahead yet. I did one. I had a theme in Edinburgh, just taking pictures of tourists and kind of taking pictures of tourists taking pictures around Edinburgh. And then I look back at this picture and I'm like, maybe not. I think I need to find a different project, a different theme. But that's how it goes, right? What's that?
Don't make it challenging. I've made 3 books, and you know what? I think it's great because it's they're tactile. It's better looking on a digital monitor. It's like getting an image printed and framed, And I just think of something you've done, or look at a collection of images and just see how they can bring them together. I done a book in one day with my workshop, for example. And I had a special memory because I lost a dear friend. And he passed away the day I was down there photographing trees because he was a great photographer and loved woodland. But it was, it doesn't make it. And nowadays books are really quite cheap and cost effective, with some of the offers that you get on like Instagram and such like. But and they're always there for people who are, when we're not all here, your kids are there. You know what I mean? It's just like it'll sit on a shelf for longevity.
True. I did create one book for myself, but I wouldn't mind either creating a zine maybe for distribution. And eventually, if I have a large enough body of work to find a publisher to get my stuff published. But I feel like there also needs to be some cohesive element to the images in the book.
In my mind, I always thought about like hidden Edinburgh. So the things that the tourists and the visitors don't see. So something that would make people stop and say, well, I've been going to Edinburgh. I didn't realize that it's there. Or didn't realize that actually that's something, because sometimes as we go along, even for people who I think who lives locally, I'm guilty of that where I used to live, because there were really good things. And I live in an area like in Iron Bridge area. It's a historical area, lots of interesting things, but it becomes kind of part of the scenery. So I don't take notice of them anymore. But I've always said to myself as well that I'd like to see something that would tell me the hidden beauty or the hidden history, the hidden things that's actually within that, especially for the likes of Edinburgh, where everyone knows where Edinburgh is. And then in Colton Hill, everyone knows where Colton Hill is, and they go and they look. But there's certain things in there that might not, might be interesting that people might not notice.
Yeah. I think they have a great concept with that hidden Edinburgh. And that kind of brings me to, like trying to photograph someplace with your vision. And I never, maybe when I go through my pictures of Edinburgh that I took, I'll come across some kind of similarities, that will show what how I viewed Edinburgh.
Mm.
But I haven't taken the time to actually go through to look at them and be like, well, is there something in here that I can use to create
Mm.
a book? But you got me thinking now. That'll be my project.
Yes, and
True,
I'll be looking forward. I'll be looking forward for the announcement of that, because I'll certainly get a copy.
Yeah, you'll be the first to know.
Yeah.
And also, didn't you get noticed by some? Was it you did like a coffee shop or photos for a company, didn't you?
Yeah, they're a signage company in Edinburgh. My brain really isn't working right now, but I was commissioned to do some photos, take some photos of the signages that they've done around the city, and that they use some of my pictures on their website.
That's brilliant.
So yeah, that was another morale boost, you know,
Oh, very good. Yeah,
morale
absolutely.
booster.
Mm.
So, and then the whole time I'm there taking pictures, like, I don't know if this is good enough. Second guessing myself the whole time. Just, I need to get out of my head.
What were the events? What was the events that led up to them actually? How they contacted you? How did they get in touch? How did they find out about you and get in touch with you?
One of the pictures I posted was a signage they did, you know, and I had tagged the restaurant or the cafe, and in doing so, they looked through my feed and saw that I had taken other pictures of some of their signages, so they reached out on Instagram.
Oh, brilliant! Oh, very good. Well done, you.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
Excellent.
Okay, so do we have any more questions or?
I think that's for me. I'm just now looking forward to the book.
No, I think just for me more. I mean, obviously, you're in the States now, but you were in Edinburgh. How long ago were you in Edinburgh, or do you come back? And is it? I mean, I don't know if it's to do with your work or how do you travel between these places?
And I was living in Edinburgh for 5 years,
Okay.
and then we left 2 years ago and moved back to the States. So
Okay.
I can't believe it.
unfortunately, not coming back often, but I know 2 years has gone by fast in Valerie Jardin in Paris, and that was a really good workshop. You know, she gave tips and tricks and pointers, and then we had to provide 5 photos that she would critique. And you know, her critique was very positive and helpful. You know, not demeaning in any way. And she just had a way of providing you with positive feedback that you can take away and continue on with your photography journey. So
that's
very
brilliant. Who did you go with?
Just myself.
No, but you said you did a workshop with someone.
It's Valerie Jardin.
Okay, I'll have to look her up.
Yeah. I think you would like her stuff.
How many other photographers were on the workshop? Was it 1-to-1 or was it with a bunch of you?
It's a small group. I think she takes 8, maybe 10 people max per workshop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard the name actually, because when oddly enough, I was going on a photography tour with Colin Pryor here in Scotland, but another chap that was there, we're in the railway station, and he was going to go out to Paris and in the next few months to go with Valerie as well. So what a connection.
Yeah, her stuff is really nice, and her style is very much aligned with my style. You know, kind of isolating subjects, but she's much more deliberate with her compositions, whereas I kind of just snap. and sometimes I'll be deliberate with my compositions.
I
But
think
she's
you're, I
very
think you're being very modest there now. I think you've been very modest.
thank you, thank you. But yeah, she's a black and white photographer and very good teacher. So I would
Okay.
recommend her
Yeah.
workshop.
I've seen her stuff actually now since that chap said. But I
Yeah.
think just a final question for me, and I think I might know the answer, but I'll ask you: street photography, Edinburgh or Washington DC?
Edinburgh. Yeah.
I knew you were going to say Edinburgh.
Europe in general. I love just being in Europe. You know, the compactness of the cities, the walkability. Well, you can walk in DC, but it's definitely more scattered. And I just haven't really ventured into different parts of the city, more in the tourist area right now. So I'll have to go and try to venture other places.
Have you been to Porto yet?
No, I want to. That's on my list. Yeah.
You'll love it. You'll love
I've
it.
seen beautiful images come out of there.
Where's that?
Porto
In
in
Portugal.
Portugal, yeah.
Interesting.
It can be very busy, but it's got oozes of character and history. Well, no, but oh yeah, it'd be I loved it when I was there, and I'm not a street photographer, but I tell you what, it was amazing.
Yeah, just a lot of bright. Yeah, it's very bright. Yeah.
When you go, so it's got everything. It's got colour, it's got character. You've got people sitting out in this, because it's the same. It's a European thing, isn't it? You know, people are sitting outside with a bottle of wine and you know, and just the way they all dress, and it's everywhere. It's everywhere. You know, it's like I think if you want to learn street photography, that's the places you go to, because you can't not come away with a good photograph.
That's fabulous. I love things like that.
I have to make a more concerted effort to get into DC and try and really give it a go here in DC. For the time being, you know, Europe is still one of my favorite places to shoot street.
Yeah.
The outside venues, like in Paris, just the farmers markets, you know, the street vendors with fresh fruit outside everywhere. And it's just very different from here. And so to me, I like capturing that.
Would you say also because of the architecture is a lot more older?
Yes.
More old worldy.
Yeah. I mean, I love images that come out of New York City and Chicago as well. But yeah, Europe, there's a different character to Europe street photography, in my opinion.
I mean, maybe that's leading on just maybe to a final question from myself then. I mean, okay, taking what you're saying, and are there many street photographers in Washington?
I haven't found as many.
All right, that's interesting.
I found a few. They're more documentary style, kind of more Joel Meyerowitz style, where they take in the chaos, and you know, they take those are the kind of images that they take. The more you can fit into a frame, the better. Where I like to have clean, a clean image, you know, not so much chaos, not so many distractions. I've had a hard time finding people here.
Is that not, see, I'd be taking that as a positive, thinking there's a wee gap in the market for me. You know, there's you know.
Yeah, true, very true.
He's right. Brian's right. There is a wee market. really, there's not many of
Yeah.
us.
There is one who's I found him, and he's got a huge following, and he's actually DC based as well. And his styles kind of fall similar to mine. But yeah, I just haven't it hasn't been as easy as in Edinburgh, you know, where we kind of like, well, let's meet up. But this area is so large that, I don't know, I live in Virginia, some people live in Maryland, some people live in DC, and to try to coordinate meeting up with rush hour, commute times, and it's just these factors that weren't there in Edinburgh, because I lived in the city, and if I wanted to go and take pictures, it was a 15-minute walk into the city center. Whereas here it's an hour-and-a-half commute to get into DC.
Yeah, that makes a difference, definitely. You'd have to make
Well,
a day of it.
there's a new project for you. You know, an hour and a half, the title of the book, you know, and it's the time to get into the city, to plant that seed of a new project. I've got to get into the city, and I've got to gather some images, and it's called the 1 hour 45 or 1.5 hour project. That's my commute time. There you go. There's a wee idea.
That's a good idea. I like that idea. Yeah.
I like that idea too.
This is me now. That's all I do. I do photography all the time now, thankfully. But you know, it's just wonderful, isn't it? You know, it gives you. I think photography is just good because it, you know, whatever you're doing at work or family or everything, it just gives you that space in your head to be able to slow down and just to engage what you want to do to create stuff. That's the good thing about it, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Thanks for sharing all your images and your stories and your successes. And I hope to hear from some more and this new book and this project.
Thank you, Joy.
Well, coming soon.
Definitely coming soon. Definitely.
Thank you so much for
Thank you so
coming.
much.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Have a good day. Okay,
You too.
bye-bye.
You too.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Bye.
Bye, Joy. Keep in touch.
I will.
Bye.